So he gets on his computer and does a bunch of research, and he comes across this article from on a hunting website for MassGov, and it says, let's see, barring any town regulations in Massachusetts, you do not need permission to hunt on private land that is not posted against trespassing. I mean, granted, it's kind of a weird law, and it's strongly recommended that you ask the landowner for permission. I don't need to ask for permission. I can hunt non-public land. And for those who don't know, public land is extremely hunted. You go like within a square mile, you get like 50 tree stands from other hunters. Someone fires a shotgun, the whole day's basically gone. You scared off all the animals. Well, let's see, I could hunt private land. So then he's like, okay, well, it says some town bylaws. Okay, let's see what my town bylaws say. After doing some research on the town bylaws, and it says, no person shall hunt or fire or discharge any firearm on private property or property owned or controlled by the town of West Newbury except with the written consent of owners or the legal occupants thereof, and such consent shall be carried at all times by any person hunting upon request shall be shown to any police officer or officer of the Department of Conservation or the property owner or his agent. For the purposes of this paragraph, the Board of Selectmen shall deem to be the owner or legal occupant of any property owned or under the control of the town of West Newbury. You're like, okay, well, crap, you can't do that. But then you look at Section 3, and this is like, any person violating any provision of this law shall be punishable by a fine of not more than $20. I'm sorry, like, what? That means this whole section up here about how you can't do this, it's not you can't, it's saying if you get caught, it's a $20 thing. I mean, I pay $20, I pay more than $20 for a gym pass sometimes, depending on where I'm going for jiu-jitsu. $20 ain't nothing for hunting, especially if I can get good property. So I'm like, okay, well, I can hunt town land. I don't have to go on other people's property. I can hunt public land owned by the town without the town's permission, and then just pay them $20. So I'm like, this is brilliant. I found a way to do it. And calls up his friend, explains, and he says like, dude, that's town land. You're like, yeah, I know, but the bylaws say it's only $20 fine. Like, it's not actually, like, at $20, it's not like you can't do it. It's like, dude, it's $20 if you want to do it. Again, I'll get into it later, but it's a way bigger fine. And his friend is like, his friend looks into this. He's like, oh my god, it's brilliant. Like, I didn't realize this because no one actually checks the freaking bylaws of towns. So then his friend texts him and he's like, hey man, I found this weird thing over here. He sends it to him, and give me a second. Section 59 of General Laws Part 1, Title XIX, Chapter 131, Section 59. Like, literally, what the is this? Why is it so difficult to find? A person shall not hunt or in any other manner molest, I don't even know why they have to add that, molest or destroy any bird, mammal within the boundaries of any reservation, park, or common, or any land owned or leased by the Commonwealth or any political subdivision thereof, which includes towns, or any land held in trust for public use except that the authorities or persons having the control or charge of such reserves, parks, or commons or other lands may, with such limitations as they deem advisable, permit hunting within said boundaries during the applicable open season of any bird or mammal. That's a long-ass sentence, but what does this mean? It means all the research I did, all the actual, like, looking through websites, finding this website where it's like, well, you can hunt on land, you just have to check the bylaws. I go check the bylaws. Like, I thought I was in the right. Like, I did research. I researched this to make sure I was in the right and I was following the laws. Granted, a town bylaw is like, ow, like, it's a slap on the wrist. It's not a state law I'm breaking. But it turns out, no, I'm actually breaking a state law, which means I would get, like, the EPA called on me and have to go to court and pay, like, a crap ton of fines. It's like $500 per violation or something. And I think it's the stupidest thing ever, because if you get fined for this, you can't go, oh, well, I didn't know. Ignorance of the law is not like an excuse for breaking it, which is the stupidest thing ever, because it totally should be. Like, there should be some laws that you should be able to use common sense to, like, don't rape, don't murder, don't punch people. Like, anyone should be able to determine that those are bad things, regardless of their level of education. Like, hurting others is bad. It's not common sense that I can't hunt on public land owned by my town that I pay taxes to. That's not common sense. Yet, I would somehow be expected to know this law after this other section I looked at told me something completely different. I have to find this one specific law. And it's retarded. Like, it's literally retarded that I'd be able to get fined, have to go to court and pay a massive fine to the EPA, and potentially get my hunting license suspended, all because I didn't know this one little law existed, and somehow ignorance of the law is not like an excuse for breaking it, which it totally should be. If you don't know that it's illegal to take lobsters out of a tide pool without a license, like, you should not be able to get charged with that. It should be like a one-time offense where you're like, well, now, here's a warning, give them the warning, and then, well, now if you do it again, you know, therefore you're breaking the law. If you put a sign up that says you can't take lobsters out of the tide pool, like, this is a law in New Hampshire, you can't take lobsters out of tide pools. If you put a sign up saying you can't, no taking lobsters out of the tide pools, it's against the law, and then the person walks by that sign and takes the lobsters out of the tide pools, well, then he walked by the sign and he broke the law. But, like, there are some situations where you don't even know what the hell the laws are, which is why I say never talk to cops. Because, like, I mean, the government doesn't even know what all the laws are. I think they lost count, actually, of all the felonies that it's possible to commit. And it literally bugs me so much that you could break the law, have to pay fines, and be, like, have someone tell you, now you have to give us money and do this and do that and show up to these court dates and that, just because I don't know this. Like, I don't know this information. I wasn't told this in my hunting class. No one said, well, you can hunt, but just not common land. It frustrates me that you cannot plead ignorance as a way of getting, as, like, a defense to a crime. There should be certain crimes where you can plead ignorance as a defense, and that should be legally allowed and legitimate. And then it should be up to the government to prove that you're not ignorant of it. But the simple fact is, I didn't know this law existed. I did research. I tried to be in the right, yet somehow would have landed up with a multiple $100 fine